Welcome to another of METV's programs on legal topics affecting families and children. I'm Senior Judge Lee Hayworth. There are very few Americans today who have not been personally touched by someone addicted to drugs. All of us know friends or coworkers, maybe we have family members, whose lives have been ruined by chronic substance abuse. Historically, when addicts ran afoul of the law, which happens a lot, the courts had one option: lock them up. Then in the 1980s, with the influx of cocaine into the United States, Janet Reno, the state attorney in Dade County, later U.S. Attorney General, started drug court, and the concept spread. In our circuit, one judge, frustrated with the revolving door of addicts coming in and out of the criminal justice system, saw the value of drug court and decided to start one in Manatee and Sarasota counties. That judge was the Honorable Andrew Owens. He was the moving force to get funding and has been the presiding judge in drug court since the program started in 1997. He's here today to talk about the challenges of drug court, his experiences in dealing with addicts, and the difference he's seen the program make in the lives of drug court clients. Now, we've also invited the director of drug court, Alfred James, who will discuss how clients are screened, assessed, and counseled as they progress through drug court. And as a special guest, we have a former addict who is a successful graduate of a drug court, and she'll tell you how the program changed her life. Now, let me introduce the panel. Starting at the far end, we have Judge Andy Owens. Next to him is Adina Bridges, and then to my side here is Alfred James. So, Judge Owens, before we had drug courts, what were we doing wrong in the criminal justice system?
Lee, let me just back up just a bit there. In the early 80s, they started doing studies of individuals that were in jail, started off in Washington, D.C. on felony charges. And they found, even though they weren't drug charges themselves, that 80% of the individuals that were incarcerated, having been just arrested, not even convicted of a crime, were testing positive for illegal substances. So at that point, they began to realize what we were doing. We were trying to incarcerate or put people in jail and work our way out of the problem. I'm sure you remember, because I know we were both on the bench in the 80s, we'd often send someone to state prison for over a year, and basically they would leave the county jail, ride to the reception center, they would give them $100 and they would send them back because there was no room in the inn. We simply could not arrest ourselves out of the addiction issue. So we had to look at something different.
What did you see in the value of drug courts? What was there about it that you thought could make a difference?
Well, historically, it's been proven over and over that if you put an addict in jail without treatment, you get an addict out of jail. Typically, someone that is in an active addiction, they will commit over 50 property crimes a year. The cost to the community is just simply enormous. Forget the cost to the families and the destroyed lives, but just the actual cost of these additional crimes is enormous. So it just made sense to me after I would see the same people over and over. They weren't bad people. They were just making bad decisions over and over in your criminal courtroom, that we needed to do something different. We needed to help them change their lives.
So just in general, how does the regular court system differ from the typical treatment program as it compares to drug court? What makes it different?
Well, the real difference in having the drug court is the immediacy of sanctions and rewards. If you're in the typical criminal justice system, it's a very slow process. A person that's caught up in an addiction there's no way that they remember what they did yesterday, much less something that happened 90 to 120 days ago. And that's what typically happens. They're arrested, their arraignment set 6 weeks out, they go to their arraignment, then there's a pretrial. They can't even, most of them even remember why they're in jail. And with the drug court, we have the ability, we see them on a weekly basis. We have the ability to reward those that are working hard, making changes in their lives, or to sanction the individuals that aren't. It's basically like teaching a child how to change their behavior.
So you've got a number of players in the criminal justice system. Besides the judge, you've got state attorneys, you've got attorneys, private attorneys, public defenders. What is their role in this process? What do they do to assist in this initiative?
Well, that's an excellent question, and I'll back up just a little bit. That's one of the things that I should have mentioned to you, that the reason this program is so successful, whether it's the state attorney, the public defender, the private attorneys, directors, even the lab techs, the counselors, the case managers, everybody involved in our program wants the individuals that come into the program to succeed, to have a successful life. And that's the big difference in this program and the regular system, where, as you are aware, basically, if I'm a judge and I have criminal cases, it's much easier for me to put the person in jail, the case is over. This way we're working continually with a person for a long period of time.
All right. Let me turn to Alfred James here. Now, you're the director of drug court.
Yes.
And so you see people coming into the program, coming out of the program. Tell me basically how that screening works. How do you pick the people that would be appropriate for the program, and the ones you accept, the ones you reject? What's the criteria?
Well, the criteria is that we have people who have committed nonviolent felonies, no drug dealing, but each case is actually reviewed case by case, because sometimes there may be some parameters and we'll look at them. But people come to drug court a lot of ways. I'll just give you an example. Sometimes people will call the office and talk to our assistant directors. The directors will send those names to the state attorney. State attorney will screen them for legal charges to make sure that their legal history meets criteria. But then we also have case managers and counselors who will also go and assess the people to make sure that there are people who are actually going to participate in the treatment process. And then we'll bring the people to court. They'll be able to observe the court, and then ultimately the drug court team will make a decision where we'll bring that person in or not.
So examples of types of crimes, it can be felonies, I take it.
Felonies, right.
So such things as grand theft auto, perhaps.
Grand thefts.
Grand thefts, of course, drug possession, but not sales, you said.
Not sales generally, I would say.
Okay. And how about something like domestic violence? Do you accept any of the folks that are involved with that?
Normally, domestic violence would not be brought in, but as I say, what we'll do is we'll look at the case and the particulars and make a determination, because not all cases are equal. And as a team, we'll discuss it, and then we'll make a determination as a team.
Judge Owens, I understand that we have what is called an enhanced drug court. What does that mean? Well,
over the history of drug court, they have found that about 70% of the individuals that have addiction issues also have a mental health issue. They call it a co-occurring disorder. So we felt that we needed to not only address the addiction issue, but also the mental health issues. So the enhanced drug court, we brought in counselors that were certified in mental health, and so they can address those issues with these individuals. And this just enhances our program and allows these people to also be successful.
Well, let's go back to that for just a moment. Let me just ask Mr. James here. What do the counselors do? I mean, once they have somebody that's coming into the program, what is their role? How are they to intervene? And what's their mission, really?
The counselor actually is the primary point of contact for the participant who comes in the program. It's the counselor that will do an assessment to determine the level of acuity of the addiction, how much treatment they're going to need. The counselor is the person who they have their one-on-ones with, that talk about the things. Counselors are going to know about family life, their history, what's happened this week, all of the things that's going on. The counselor is going to be the person that they're going to be going to talk about all the things that are going on that are affecting them, and why they're either struggling right now, or why they're having success. And so the counselor is the person that the participant's going to go to, so that whatever's going on, they'll have an ear that's going to be there for them and to encourage them.
I might just step in. To me, one of the real values sitting as a judge is that the counselors are non-judgmental. Mm-hmm. And rather than just looking at the symptom, this individual is having problems with an addiction, they look at the cause of that, and they delve greatly into their lives. And they're the key to this program. They really make a difference with these individuals.
So tell me about how that would work with, say, the typical offender. How do you verify that they're being honest and trustworthy when they come before you in court? Judge Owens, what's the sort of thing you use to test their sincerity about participating in the program?
Well, as you know, all judges have that little crystal ball up there, and we can tell when someone's telling the truth. Of course, nothing could be further from the truth than that. But we do random drug screens every week. And each individual that comes into the program is given a number, and they have to call our office, and if their number comes up, they're required to come in and actually give us a urine specimen that we'll check to see if they're using any illegal drugs. That's one way that we hold them accountable, but the whole program is based on accountability. They're required to do inside groups every week. The counselors eyeball them at that point. They're very skilled at telling if an individual is coming in intoxicated. That they're under the influence would be a better way to say it.
So what's the selling point for a defendant? Why would they be interested in doing this, aside from getting off drugs? I mean, is there a motivation connected to their case that's incentivizing for them?
There is. If it's a felony, first time they've ever been arrested for a felony, they can come in on what we call the pretrial intervention program, which is a very scaled-back program, and they can complete it in 6 months if they'll test clean and their charges are dismissed. If it's a second felony or occurred very close in proximity to the first felony, they'll let them come in on what we call a sentence deferred. This program will last 12 months. We can shorten it to 9 months. Again, their charges will be dismissed. To further incentivize the program, individuals, as you're aware, under our statute, on the second felony, the statutes say you're required to be adjudicated. You lose your right to vote, to bear arms. That's also something that if they're willing to come in and work the program, we've gotten a lot of cooperation from the state attorneys on the right cases that we can continue to withhold an adjudication of guilt on these individuals.
Well, that's a key point. You need a cooperative state attorney, and Ed Brodsky, as well as his predecessor, Earl Moreland, have been very committed to this program, and they exercise some gatekeeper responsibilities as to who goes in and who doesn't. But apparently, things have been working well with the state attorney's office in this respect.
Absolutely. They're one of our biggest partners and supporters, and we really could not have a successful program without their assistance.
Alfred, let me come back to this drug testing things. You know, we read all the time about ways that the addicts will try to beat the system. What do you do to make sure that when you get a test result, it's not been fraudulently submitted in some way?
Well, our tests are observed. That means if it's a female person goes in to supervise the collection of that specimen. If it's a male goes in. But in addition to that, we also have mirrors around the walls so that if a person's trying to falsify, put something into the specimen, we'll be able to see it, we'll be able to know what they're doing. And we also have other steps that if we have any concerns, we also have laser thermometers that'll be able to get the body temperature to make sure it's a certain temperature range. And if it's outside of a certain range in the temperature, that specimen will not be accepted. So there are quite a few ways that we make sure that what we're getting is valid.
And Adina, I'm not forgetting about you. I'm going to get to you because you've got a very interesting story. We will give you a chance to explain your experiences in just a few minutes. But I do want to cover some of the processes here. So let's go back to typical day in court when you're in drug court. Tell me how it starts out, Judge Owens. Who's there? You have family members. Kind of paint a picture for us of the courtroom.
Well, right now, between the two programs, we have about 450 participants. So obviously we can't see them all at any one time. So we'll have anywhere from 70 to 90 actual participants that come in to the courtroom. We divide them up. Often we have graduates each week, but the individuals that have progressed through the program and are doing everything correctly, testing clean, we have an A team, then we have a B team, then we have a group of individuals. To participate in the program, you have to pay a weekly fee, and those that are current on everything, they're called our non-sanctioned group. So all those individuals get out fairly quickly. Then we begin spending a little bit more time on individuals that may be sanctioned, and then we have our regular docket. So yes, there are quite a few family members, but we are, under the HIPAA, they can come, it's an open courtroom, anyone can come into the courtroom, but we're not allowed to discuss with anyone the results of their test or their counseling unless they sign a release for us. But quite a few parents come in because they're very interested. Significant others come in. It's quite a production.
Well, let's talk about the sanctions. Somebody's been admitted to your court, fiddles around with the drug test. Mm-hmm. What do you do with them the first time that happens? Mr. James, tell me.
It depends. Quite often we give warnings the first time around because in drug court, we try to give people an opportunity to be honest, to be open. And so quite often we'll just give them a warning. We may give them community service. We may increase some other things in the program, but very seldom will we automatically go to jail with someone if something like they test positive or something of that nature happens.
Judge Owens, what would you say would trigger a jail sentence when they violate?
Well, as Alfred has indicated to you, the focus of this program is treatment, giving people an opportunity to change their life. We're trying to give them the tools to be successful, to make good decisions. And jail is our last choice. However, I start off with a warning. I then increase your treatment. I then give you community service. I'll often make you write an essay to explain to me your behavior. If none of this works, I start off with short periods of jail. I like to use weekends. A lot of people miss their weekends, and I prefer to put them in jail on Saturday and Sunday. And if none of that works, I continue to increase the sanction. And then if none of that's worked, I have what I call my jail program. If you miss a group, if you miss an outside meeting, counseling session, it's automatically 7 days. I explain to you, you're going to lose your job. You'll probably lose your apartment. You'll probably lose your car. If you're going to continue in this direction, you need to withdraw, and I'll impose the appropriate jail sentence. Usually that works.
Can I interject here?
Sure.
So what happens with the treatment team beforehand? When I'm meeting with a client, my goal would be to catch the relapse immediately before they go see Judge Owens so that we can catch it and get them on the right track as soon as possible instead of needing that jail intervention. So hopefully I would add the more groups or more drug tests or before they meet with him.
And with your insight, you probably can tell pretty quickly if there's a problem, right? I mean, can you?
I would like to think so, but that doesn't mean that I haven't been bamboozled.
That's an excellent point that she just made. The counselors meet with them weekly, sometimes even more often than that. They start working with them. They'll put them on daily drops, increase their group participation. Then I meet with the counselors before court, and we discuss each person that's going to appear in front of me. And they'll tell me, for example, Bill here, yes, Judge, he tested positive, but he was honest. He explained to me what happened. It was a very difficult situation at home. Something happened that was unexpected. He made a bad decision. Since then, we've worked on it. He's done daily groups. He's done daily drops. He's been clean. I would ask that you not put him in jail. And I will 99.9% of the time follow the advice of the counselors.
So being candid, they have to be honest with you and also with the counselors, and you can find out when they're not. But their progress, they're going to be more successful if they're honest and forthcoming with their addiction problems, right?
That's
correct. What you expect. So let's talk a little bit about the way this program is funded. You said you've got about 200, is it, 400?
450.
450, maybe. How's it breaking down by counties?
Right now, Sarasota has a few more people than Manatee, but they're about even, pretty even.
About 200?
220 something each one.
Okay, and how about the budget? What kind of budget you got?
Budget in Sarasota is a little bit higher than Manatee. Sarasota's budget is about 900,000. Manatee's around 608. But when you throw in like my salary and case manager, state case manager, rises up to about $700,000.
Okay. Judge Owens, you mentioned that there's a benefit to society economically and otherwise with drug courts. So the counties are spending money, but that's on the front end. On the back end, how is the community benefited?
Well, let me just back up. You know, when we started the program, the traditional approach was to put people in jail, lock them up. Now, it's in excess of $80 a day to keep someone locked up. Mm-hmm. I can perform this treatment for about $3,000 a year. Now, you have someone that's an addict, in addition to being locked up, a lot of them don't get caught. They commit maybe 50 property crimes a year. Think if that's your car that was burglarized. So when you add all those in, this is very cost effective to our community to have the drug court. And that's why there's been such a proliferation of drug courts throughout the country, because they're just so cost effective.
And I take it that the sheriffs who run the jails are strong supporters of this, because they're the ones that have to pay for the incarcerative cost of meals and everything else. So I would expect they would be supporters. Is that true here?
For the most part, yes, that's true.
Yeah, well, both of our jails now have what we would call recovery pods. And so when an individual is in jail, they are actually bringing to them meetings, they're bringing to them speakers, so they begin to address their addiction while they're in jail. Often these are the individuals that we get, so they've already got a leg up. They've already started on this process of overcoming their addiction. So we're very appreciative to law enforcement and their support for our program.
Well, to take an example of a case, a person is arrested and goes in front of the felony judge, and they offer drug court, and the defendant says, yes, I'm wanting to do that. Is there a negotiated plea in the event he doesn't successfully complete? How do you structure the plea arrangements to have them go into drug court?
Well, again, this is on a case-by-case basis. The majority of them are on probation. And it's 24 months of drug offender probation, with the understanding the program lasts typically from 12 to 18 months for most participants. As I mentioned earlier, there are some that have very minor or very limited history that can complete their program in less time. But the understanding is that upon your graduation, your probation is terminated. But to graduate, not only do you have to participate and meet all our requirements, you have to pay all your court costs and your weekly fees. So, and if there's any restitution involved. Now, as a result of the state attorney's office being so supportive, we're now having some individuals that actually score out to the Department of Corrections. I'll actually sentence them to their Department of Corrections sentence. Just say it's 24 months in the Department of Corrections. I'll suspend that sentence, place them on 24 months of drug offender probation. If they successfully complete, I will delete that sentence and close their case. If they do not, they know automatically if I terminate them from the participation in the drug court, they're going to the Department of Corrections for 24 months.
All right, so I've heard it said that relapse is part of recovery. So how do you reach the decision, Alfred, how do you decide whether this person has really crossed the line and when they need another chance? Is that a lot of it comes from the counselors?
It comes from the entire team, actually. Counselors do have a major role to play. But really what we look at, a couple of things we always tell everybody. Keep coming back, no matter what happens, no matter how many times you may test positive, always show up. Always communicate. Let us know what's going on. And normally if people come back, let us know what's going on, and just keep communicating and keep doing their best, we will generally work with them, because relapse is a part of the addiction process. It's not that we're expecting people to relapse, but we understand that it will happen. And normally when that happens and the people get to the place that they really understand that we're genuine with them, sometimes things will click and then they'll begin to make that shift. But we just really encourage them to continue to participate regardless of how it looks, and to communicate with us and let us know what's going on, so that way we can provide this, whatever interventions that they need.
And that's one thing, excuse me, Judge, that sets us apart. A typical treatment program, they basically have to have a zero tolerance policy.
That's true.
So that if a person is in their program and begins to test positive, they have to terminate them. See, we have the option. We know that the vast majority of them are going to relapse at some point. And we can work with them and give them an opportunity to overcome this.
Well, say a person completes drug court successfully, and after that they get arrested again, another offense, drug-related, or the addiction's continuing. How many chances does a person have to go into the drug court program?
Usually two. But
Sometimes.
you know, that's always negotiable, but it's a rare exception that anyone gets more than 2 chances to come into the program.
Can you estimate the percentage of people that complete it successfully on the first attempt? Any way to do that?
I would think that for those who graduate on the first attempt, I would think maybe 40 to 45% of those who are serious will do so. What happens sometimes is some people come in, they won't do well, they're not ready to do all of the requirements, but then they get back on probation and they don't last long on probation, they end up going to jail, and they have an epiphany somewhere along the line. Those people come back in and they do very well the second time around because now they understand the price that's going to be paid.
Yeah, one of the sanctions that is built into the system is when they're on probation and they violate, unlike the initial offense when they get a bond.
Right.
They're pretty much locked down until they can get in front of a judge and have either Judge Owens or one of the felony judges do something about their incarceration. So let's talk a little bit about recidivism. I know recidivism rates are notoriously hard to track. What would you say your success rate is for, say, 2 years after?
Right now, for both programs, we're about 83, 84% success for those who successfully graduate. We also have, want to say that we also have a 60+ percent retention rate, meaning that 60% of the people who come into the program, they complete the program, more than 60%. That's pretty high because a lot of treatment just doesn't work that way because, as Judge Owens said, there's zero tolerance. And we give people an opportunity to recover and to get things right. So we graduate quite a bit of our people.
What do you think about some of these chemicals that we're using in other areas, Suboxone and Methadone? What's the policy on drug court with those?
Well, I have to add that right now there's a thing called MAT, medically assisted treatment. And the National Drug Court has adopted that policy, but it's one of those things that you actually have to, it's there available for you, but you have to really earn it to keep it, because if you're on it, we don't want you using other substances and you lose that right. But I'll say this, as far as Suboxone and Methadone, I know it gets a bad rap, but right now we're living in a time where things are pretty crucial, and I thought about the process of sometimes when a firefighter's fighting a big fire, they'll actually set another fire further down so that the fire doesn't spread as far. And when used appropriately, these drugs can be helpful, but the issue is that most people really don't use them appropriatly.
Well, Suboxone's not cheap, is it?
It's not cheap at all.
How much is it?
Neither one. You're running $200 to $300 a month for those pills.
All right, so where does a person in drug court go to get tested? How much does it cost?
It costs about $300 up front.
Not Suboxone,
No.
just a regular drug test.
Oh, regular drug test. Oh, we have our own lab for testing. But a full panel test would cost about $5 for us to do.
That's great.
That includes cocaine, marijuana, alcohol, amphetamines. So we'll do a
Spice, does it pick up the...
We have spice as well. And what we do is when a person comes in, we'll run that full panel and just to see what they test positive for. Then we'll get an idea of what they actually use, because they'll come in when they do an assessment, they might say, well, I use this, I use that. We'll test them and find out that they use a lot more than they say. And then we'll kind of set parameters as to how we're going to test them. But just as the judge says, we may do some other things randomly as well with the testing, because people try to fool you to, they know what you're testing, so they might do something a little different. So we'll shake things up a little bit.
But now that's the reason we charge that weekly fee. They don't have to pay for each individual test.
That's exactly right.
They pay $10 a week in Manatee and $15 in Sarasota, and that covers their drug test. Not really, but we feel that they need to make a contribution towards their recovery.
All right, well, that's a good...
But can I add, though,
Yeah.
if we are actually still a bargain, because if we were to send someone out some other place, Quest Diagnostics, LabCorp, those people may charge $50.
60.
It's 60, huh, now for a urine test.
All right, well, tell me, do you have any estimates on ethnicity breakdowns, racial breakdowns, just generally percentage-wise of the people that are coming in to our drug court?
Actually, right now, I would say that probably about 75% are Caucasian, but I think right now we're getting quite a few more African Americans coming into the program. And historically, that has not been the case, but right now we're getting a lot more, about it, 20, maybe 15, 20%. And, we got about 10, 15% Hispanic. I know those numbers don't quite jive, but
roughly that's about it.
Yeah.
Okay. And so, Judge Owens, what do you do when you have a case where somebody is just adamant, has fooled you several times, you make the decision you're going to pull the string and send them to prison? I'm sure that's not a happy experience for you.
No, it's an extraordinarily unpleasant experience, and I go to great lengths to try to avoid it, but unfortunately sometimes you just can't. And you hate to have those days, but unfortunately it happens. I have 2 of them coming up tomorrow.
Yeah.
It's sad, but you're just hoping that they have gotten the information, they understand, they see all these other individuals being successful, and although they weren't successful this time, that when they do finish serving their period of incarceration, they'll come out and be successful. And amazingly, that does happen.
So you see people going to prison, spending 3, 4, 5 years in prison, getting out, and then getting involved with drug court and being successful.
Well, usually they don't so often get involved with drug court, as they just come by and they'll show up at court and say, look, I just wanted to come by and let y'all know that I deserve that. I'm glad you did it. It's the best thing that happened to me, and now I'm successful.
Now, Dina, I'm going to talk to you a little bit, because you have a very interesting history. First off, tell us what you're doing now with drug court.
So right now I'm doing 2 master's degrees at USF, and my internship is at drug court.
And you're looking at a master's in what?
I'm doing my master's in social work and public health.
Okay, so that's Edina Bridges today.
Yes.
Let's go back and tell us how you got involved with drug court and why you got involved with drug court.
Well, the shorter version, I started using drugs in high school. I wasn't very entertained. I found more fun outside of school, and I started using drugs. When I got into the workforce and started having money, my addiction progressed, and at that time I was just bouncing around to different drugs, mostly marijuana and then cocaine. No real thing that I was doing on a daily basis. Then I met a wonderful boy who had a great new habit that we could do together, and it was opiates, so the trend for Bradenton now. And that's what I started doing, and it ended up being a daily occurrence very fast. And then it was, 8 years ago, so it's when you could easily go to the doctor, and doctor shopping was very prevalent. So I went to the doctor on my own and got my own prescription, so I didn't have to buy it off the street.
How'd you do that? What'd you tell the doctor that
that I got in a car accident, and I did a full MRI. But the thing is with MRIs, and no bad thing against any doctor, is that the majority of us, just from life events, will have smashed discs. Depressed discs. So I had 2 depressed discs, nothing, well, I know nothing that was hindering me now, but at that time in my addiction, I was like, I do have a back problem. I do have a problem because my paper says it here, and the doctor gave me this, so I kind of tricked myself as well. And I started getting in trouble. I got possession with paraphernalia. I thought I did not want to go into drug court. I wanted to do probation because I didn't want someone tagging me and having me do, I knew that I couldn't do the number of things that you need to do in drug court. Within 30 days, I got arrested again for the exact same charge, possession of the pills, because even though I had a bottle for the prescription, I was in active addiction, so I couldn't keep them in the bottle. You don't think things through.
What was the actual medication that was prescribed?
Roxy's.
Roxy's.
And Xanax.
And how much would they give you in dosages? I mean, how many pills did you get, and what was the dosage?
I typically got 160 pills a month.
Goodness, and what was your daily intake?
By the end, I did at least 10 a day, so I had to go elsewhere.
Did you doctor shop? Go from doctor to doctor? Or?
I did. I did illegal activities only to get more pills, not to pay my bills. I somehow kept my job for quite a while until the very end, and then stuff just spiraled out of control very quickly. So my mother called, is my way of getting in, and begged them to take me into drug court. She had been chasing me around for years, all over town. And they accepted me in, but I didn't go in under that's what I think is unique about drug court, is that I didn't go in with the idea of staying sober. I went in with the idea of I wanted to get out of jail, was my number one concern, and I wanted to learn how to use appropriately so that I did not get in trouble. That was my goal. So when I went into drug court, I did very well for the first 3 months. And then everything.
Were you there at that time,
he was.
Alfred?
He was.
She was something else.
Yes, I wasn't an easier case. I actually had Judge Williams when I was in drug court, and I began using on a regular basis. When they said they were going to send me to a program, I'm so glad Judge Owens wasn't there when I was in there.
When they walked.
Yeah. I ran. They found me in a kitchen cabinet. I was hiding in a kitchen cabinet. Some things are embarrassing, but that's the path that I had to take to where I'm at now. So it's a lot better working with the clients, knowing I know the exact extremes they will go to, because there was nothing that would hold me back from wanting to use again. That was my daily goal. So I ended up, once they found me, which was within a couple days, they tested me for what drugs were in my system, and I was pregnant. So once you're pregnant, that's not necessarily a get out of jail free card, especially if you've been using actively like I was. It was a risk for the baby. So after leaving me sit there for a month, they sent me to Mothers and Infants, where I successfully delivered my little girl a natural birth with no painkillers. I was trying a new route, and here I am.
Tell me about the Mothers and Infants program. How long were you in that, and is it a residential program?
It is a residential program in Sarasota. It was actually very similar to drug court, except I was inpatient and wasn't allowed to leave or have the opportunity to be around anybody with drugs. It was groups, daily, individual sessions, and then parenting classes on top, as well as checking my health for the baby.
Were you able to avoid illegal substances while you were pregnant?
Yes.
You were able to do that?
Yes.
Okay, because you know we have a number of children born. I know about Sarasota Memorial, we typically have, last year I think about 100 born substance abused. Now it seems to be heroin. What has been the trend? What do you see originally when you started out, Judge Owens? What was a common drug and how did that progress or change?
Well, let me just back up and address what you're talking. How many clean babies have we had now?
Over 100
And as you know, it's close to $500,000 a baby that's born addicted to get out of the.
That's an enormous cost.
It is. It's unbelievable. But if you're in our program and you're pregnant, if you test positive, you either have the baby in jail or at Mothers and Infants. I do not allow you to leave the program. So it really makes a difference. But back to your original question, the impetus of drug court was cocaine when that hit. Then, and cocaine remained the main thing in Manatee County, but in Sarasota County, pills rapidly took over. And just as Adina mentioned, lots of parents, and you'd get 100, 160. It was nothing for the children to go in. I mean, the parents are telling their children don't use drugs, but in their medicine cabinet, it's full. So they just go in there and take whatever they wanted. There it was. And the parents didn't notice. And so rapidly, the opiates took over in Sarasota. Then when we got the laws changed with the pill mills, now heroin has taken over. And regrettably, I don't know if you're aware of this, but in Manatee County, last year, more people died from drug overdoses than any other county in the state of Florida. And the reason that that's now occurring is that with the heroin, they're starting to cut it with a synthetic opioid called fentanyl. And that's what Prince died from. If you're not it should be administered only in a hospital setting by a professional. And you misdose and you're dead. Now there's these shots that everybody thinks, oh, I'm going to get these Narcan shots that all the first responders have, and it stops the effect of an opiate and saves your life. Unfortunately, now individuals are being required to give them 6, 7, 8 shots. Often the first responders don't have that many shots available to them at the time. It's very sad. So what we've done, we now are working with law enforcement, and we get a list of everybody that overdoses every week. And we run that against our list of participants because a lot of them won't tell you. And if we find that they've overdosed, then we enhance the program. If they're not receptive and not honest with us, we start with a 30-day jail sanction to make sure that they're clean, and then we start the enhanced program.
Well, one of the things that I've experienced sitting in the dependency court where we remove children who are babies who are born to addicted mothers is it's just not the cost that the hospitals bear on that. It's also, if you've ever seen a child who's born addicted, they will cry incessantly. You can pick them up and hold them. They will not stop crying. It's not like you can change their diapers or feed them and they'll stop. They're sensitive to touch. They actually have seizures. If you've ever seen a baby who's in that condition, it's heartbreaking. And to be able to stop that by using a resource such as drug court has enormous benefits for our communities. And I'm hoping that in the future we'll intensify our efforts in that respect. But trying to get to the parents before they reach that point is very important. Unfortunately, until they come in the criminal justice system, drug court can't help them. I mean, that's just the way it is. Let me ask kind of a general question here and have y'all comment on it. When you look at an addict, what are the factors that influence them and keep them involved in that whole process and environment? What is it that you see that are factors that play heavily in that? I'll come to you, Adina, and ask you to comment. What do you think? Well, you can take it.
Oh, okay. First, I want to make sure they have stable living, because that's going to put them in a bad social environment if they don't.
They talk about housing.
Housing.
Which is not cheap.
Right.
Or available.
Their friends, their families, where are they going, and what do they have? I didn't have anything that was better than drugs, because I had lost it all. So finding something for them to work for that's more important than that was, what really worked for me. And it started with my daughter. I didn't stop using drugs for myself. I stopped using because I found out I was pregnant.
Tell us about your educational progress. When you got through the drug court and now you're clean, how did you put your life back together?
I graduated in June of 2011, and
From 2011, from what?
From drug court.
From drug court.
In August of 2011, I started my AA right at the beginning at SCF in Manatee County as a single mom, and I had her in daycare and picked her up immediately after. I didn't have anyone else to watch her afterwards, which was good for me since I was still newly in my sobriety out in the real world. Then I completed my bachelor's at USF in applied behavior analysis and adult community services. I have trouble letting go of things. I want to grab all the education. And now I'm in the 2 master's degree programs with the goal of, by my bachelor's, was when I decided that I was going back to drug court.
Okay, and I hear that you've announced that you're going to take his job, right?
She tells me all the time.
The more I'm in drug court, I'm learning everyone else's roles. And from the clinician side, the social work masters, I'm working with people. From public health side, I'm learning program evaluation. So the more that I'm in there, the more I realize that maybe I need something above you, Alfred.
Well, the drugs are still open, I think, so that's
I
good.
really like program evaluation. I really want to test the specific components that we have in drug court so that I can have the best ones in there.
Do you share your experiences with the folks in drug court that come in as clients?
That's something I've kind of been debating with myself. It's been easier for me to bring that up in groups when they're really complaining about drug court and all the obligations. In one-on-one sessions, it just hasn't been appropriate.
Have you chosen a thesis yet for your master's?
I would really like to tackle the new program that we're possibly bringing in.
Oh yeah, Vivitrol.
You're not ready for prime time, I take it.
Yes.
Okay. Well, let's go back to the factors. Judge Owens, what do you see in the environment around the clients that you think contributes to keeping them in that situation?
Well, I think certainly what Adina mentioned, it's people and places. Your friends, other than your faith, probably the most significant decision that you make in your life are the people that you call friends. And if you continue to hang with the same people, you're going to have the same result. So the key mantra of our program is change. When they come in, I tell the individuals, if you're happy with your life and you're not willing to change it, you do not want to come into this program. Because to be successful, you will have to change your life. And that's the bottom line to all this is change. And certainly, as they've indicated, housing, how can you change if if you don't have any safe place to live? Certainly your personal safety far exceeds coming to a group meeting. And we understand that. So we have lots of halfway houses. We have money with the Community Foundation so that we can help people, we can assist them, get them set up in a halfway house, then they're required to go to work. Again, it's all about self-discipline. They have to learn self-discipline to be successful in life.
You know, we talk about changing your friends. That's got to be a big hurdle. I mean, you've been with these people for years. They may be people you went to high school with. It could be people you work with. It could be your next door neighbor.
Could be your parents.
Could be your parents.
Exactly.
And that's the hard part when it's your significant other, your parents, your brother, your sister, someone you spent you can still love them. You just can't be with them.
And I'd like to add, that's where the halfway houses often come in and help us out a lot, because it gets them out of that environment, puts them in a place where people are going to hold them accountable. But at the same time, if it's a really good halfway house, there are going to be activities and other things that's going to draw them in and help them realize that there is life after drugs. So,
Adina, did you have trouble separating from that environment and those people that you thought were your friends? You mentioned you had a boyfriend, and how did that go when you tried to sever that relationship?
I couldn't sever it on my own. If I hadn't gone to the program, it wouldn't have been severed. And then when I was finished with the program. I was a single mom, so I wasn't really the fun one to hang out with. It happened to work out the best that it could in my favor.
One of the challenges we have in our counties, aside from housing, is transportation. Getting people from point A to point B, our public transportation system infrastructure is not robust. And how do people solve that problem? I mean, getting to take a drug test. I mean, you'll tell them to go take a test, and where's the location where they take the test, or where's it going to be? I understand it may be moving.
Manatee, it's in the courthouse. In Sarasota, it was across the street from the courthouse, but we are moving a few blocks away. But in addition, in Sarasota County, we have set up an office, a satellite office in Venice, because so many people live down in Northport, and the transportation issue is very difficult. So they can do all of their testing and meeting with their counselor down in Venice, at the courthouse in Venice. And you know, it is difficult. And we do help. One of the things that I haven't touched on is that in addition to addressing their addiction issue, as Adina indicated, we need to improve their life. So we work with them on job skills. We have parenting classes. We try to help them all get their driver's license. We try to give them the opportunity not only to get off drugs, but to improve their life through additional skills.
And if they are caught with possession of drugs, they can lose their license right off the bat, right?
If they're adjudicated, that is correct, for 1 year.
So we need to explain that the judge has the option of saying, I declare you guilty of that offense, or I will withhold that decision of your guilt to see if you can progress through the drug court or otherwise succeed on probation. But at the end of the day, if they blow it off, they get adjudicated, they can't drive, or they shouldn't do it legally, and they get in trouble a lot of times that way, simply because they've had their license suspended, they get caught driving, they're back in the system, and it's a very unfortunate situation for that.
Well, the third driving while license suspended is a felony. Now that's one thing also, Lee, that we haven't addressed. When we bring people into the program, before we'll actually accept them and let them enter a plea, we make them work the program for approximately a month. And the counselors get an opportunity to evaluate them, and we make a decision. Are they willing to do these groups? Are they willing to do their outside meetings? Are they showing up for drops? Will they do the one-on-one? It's not just that they're staying clean, they have to demonstrate a willingness to work the program to change their life. If they're not willing to do that, we'll send the case back to the regular division.
And I imagine you see clients who have, to their loved ones and families, told them they're going to change, they're going to change, they're going to change. I've stopped using. Then they get busted, they come to you, and they try to repeat that same mantra, and then you got to peel that back and see really what's going on.
That's how it works. But that's where, like the judge said, the counselors come in at, because they're the ones who are going to sit down with them and talk with them and figure out what's really going on. But the other components as well help us out. The lab, testing and actually even the participation in the program. When they don't show up for groups and things of that nature, we know something's kind of going on when they start missing a lot of activities.
Well, we have to wind this up now, and I just want to see if you have any final remarks or comments or advice you want to give the audience, anything in the way of good news. Obviously, Dina, you've got good news. How about you, Alfred? What would you say? Anything you'd like to add to what we've already talked about?
Well, I'd just like to say that drug court is an opportunity for people to really get their lives back in order. As the judge said, it's not the easiest route, but I think if a person comes in and gives it an honest effort, it will pay benefits. Drug court will help you get through those tough times, and I think drug court's the best thing that we have in the criminal justice system right now today. So I think it's a great opportunity. So give it a shot. If you have somebody in your family who's on drugs and maybe in the criminal justice system, give us a call.
Adina, anything you'd like to add?
I'm just so thankful that I could be back in drug court and hopefully promoting the same change that they helped me make so that I can be a better member of society and have my family and my life.
Well, you're the poster child for this, so thank you for your efforts here in this respect. It takes a lot of courage to do what you've done. Judge Owens, any final remarks?
Well, I think that as you can see from the conversation of all of us here, our hope with the drug court is to make individuals contributing members of the community. We want you to be a good husband, a good wife, a good father, a good mother. If you don't have children, we want you to be prepared so that you can be a good parent. That's our whole goal, is to allow people to be successful.
All right. So, that's all we have time for today. The mission of drug court is to break the cycle between drugs and crime. To be successful, clients have to be committed to making serious, long-lasting lifestyle changes. They have to stop associating with active addicts, seriously change the negative influences in their environment, and make healthy choices. If they do that, and drug court can help, there's a real possibility that they can have a healthy and productive future. I'd like to thank the panel for sharing their experiences and their expertise. And on a personal note, I'd like to thank especially Judge Owens for all the lives he and the drug court folks have changed for the better. Few judges have done more to get addicts healthy than he. Judge Owens, it was an honor to serve on the bench with you. We hope the audience here has found this informative. I understand you're moving on, retiring in 2017. We're going to miss you. So thank you, and thanks to METV for producing this program.
Thank you.
Thank you.